It feels like the first songbirds of spring. I've just heard a coot on this canal, the Cromford Canal. My first round walk, not too far, hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe only 5k, and it's so good to be out in the nature. Everything's springing up. The daffodils are already out. The snowdrops are fading now, and there'll soon be chicks on the canal or on the river, and everything seems positive, and optimism rises like sap in the human breast after what seems, I don't know about you, an extremely long winter. And so it goes, the cycles of life, the seasons. I've just passed a farm with a barn dated 1550, and when it was built, I bet it's very robust, stone built of course. I bet it was the latest technology. I bet it's got brand new, or at the time, I bet the joints and the timbers holding the roof up was possibly a new design. Anyway, I'm guessing. But you know, we think of it as ancient history. 1550. 500 years, 2050. Where are we now? 475 years later. Thereabouts. And I don't know when this canal was built, dug. I'm guessing it was before the railways, of course, which came along in about the 1830s. So I think we're looking at a canal that was dug somewhere at the end of the 18th century, early 19th century. And they were very surprisingly quickly put out of business, weren't they, by the iron horses spewing steam and making a right racket. And just a few hundred years later, after the Industrial Revolution and then the Information Revolution, which I've seen it in my lifetime, now it's the AI revolution, isn't it? Have you used it yet? Of course you have. I use it every day now. It's true, I do. Both for my own use and for my video work use. And I find it extremely helpful and time-saving and intelligent. By that I don't mean conscious, of course. No, it'll never be conscious in my estimation, but intelligent. So I use it to explore issues. For example, very recently, original sin. And how I asked it, how come Saint Augustine won the argument in the Council of whatever in 430, whatever it was, against Origen. There was a big controversy at the time, and basically it said he was a loudmouth. He bossed it at the council. He played politics. He was the trump card of the bishops in the 400s, and he had a sort of distribution network. So he basically, a bit like the Brexit campaign here, it just had one slogan, 3 words, and it worked a treat. Pulled the wool over 52% of the population of the UK with 3 words: take back control. Well, the the paradox or the irony of that is we never lost control. We were collaborators in European-wide control, but hey ho. Am I really harking back to that? How many years later? I think it's 9 years ago. Goodness me. Oh look, the light on the bulrushes behind me on the other side of the canal. Anyway, our hope springs eternal with the daffodils coming out of the dark earth. The boy bikers are out on the main road, and I have nothing more to add other than to send you heartfelt greetings for everything new rising like sap in your own life. Apparently the pump house was used to pump water from the River Derwent up to the canal. The canal was built along the contour to avoid building many locks between here and Whaley Bridge, apparently. The pump house would pump 4 tons of water with every stroke of the engine. So there's the River Derwent below us. There's the pump house pumping the water from the river, and there's the canal. We think we are so modern and we think we know a lot, but in a short space of time we will be forgotten. As Mr. I've forgotten his name already. You see, I've forgotten the original inhabitant of this cottage, Aqueduct Cottage, which I believe was built in 1805 as as a lock keeper, but it was called a stop lock, which is not to raise or lower the water level for barges that you and I are more familiar with, but just to contain the water, apparently, to keep it in one place. And the first occupant of this cottage, he had no running water. He collected his water from the river, which is below us. And this has been, of course I don't know anything about this, the very helpful woman or steward of the cottage from the Derbyshire Trust that has rebuilt it, because it was derelict. She's a volunteer and giving up her Sunday just to inform people like me, modern people who think we know everything. And I am so, it's a bit, reminds me of the ferryman in Siddhartha, whose mission in life was quite simply to ferry people across the river. And yet he was an enlightened being. Maybe this woman here is an enlightened being. We can either go up to see the wild daffodils in the woods, or we can take the easy route to the cafe. Which do you think I'm going to opt for? I've just spotted something really rather lovely, I think. There's the renovated cottage, the aqueduct lockkeeper's cottage, and in the garden, which is being landscaped, I've spotted a bird feeder, or even a bird house. I think it's just a bird feeder on a pole, which is a replica of the cottage. Isn't that lovely? You know, it's very easy to have an idealistic view of something, not exactly romantic. There's nothing wrong with idealism, but it can lead you, I won't say astray, but in one direction, which you then learn about. Of course, I'm alluding to the tiny house here. So that cottage, I'm thinking to myself, oh, I could live there. I could live the life of a lock keeper's cottage man. And of course, that's sort of what I've done with the tiny house. I read Henry David Thoreau's Walden, about living in a log cabin in the woods, which he built himself many years ago now, and it resonated with me deeply. I underlined almost every sentence in the book as an alternative way of living. So that was my ideal. And 10 or 15 years later, I actually bought, I didn't make, but I bought my tiny house, and I've lived in it for 2.5 years now. Hello. And I have to say that my idealism has been severely tested this winter with, as you know, it's a bit boring, but power outages, problems, making it both difficult to live and difficult to work. So some years ago, I made a note of the title of a book that I will write one day, who knows, another ideal, and it will be called Mind the Gap. And it's a book about the gap between our ideals and our reality, our lived reality. And we all have them, but nurturing these ideals creates an expectation gap, I would say, in the rearview mirror. What it does is it creates a gap between your life as it is now with the life as you imagine in your ideal scenario it would be. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, except just recently, in fact right now, I've got it in my pocket, I'm reading Joan Tollefson's book, Bare Bones Meditation. The end of the story of my life, her life, your life, my life. And this is what we do. Well, it's what I do. You've seen it unfold in these videos over the past couple of years. You have an idea of there being some alternative way of living, or some better way of living, or where you will be happier, you will be realizing your ideal or your dream. Of course, this is nothing less than the modern individualistic consumer society mentality. The fact is, I just applied it to tiny house living, but in a way, not in a maudlin way. What that does, it seems to me, is it sort of robs you of the now. It's sort of a trickster. You're always waiting for this ideal scenario, shall we say, to unfold, but it's always tomorrow or next. And I've said often, actually, and written about it in my journals over 30 years. Yes, over 30 years. I've written, I'm addicted to next. I'm addicted to the idea that there is something missing. Well, we need to put a stop to this, but of course that's far too violent. We don't need to stop anything, no need to do anything. You just need to wake up to what it already is. And in a nutshell, whatever enlightenment or self-realization or awakening is all about, it's certainly not about something missing. It's certainly not about moving towards some other more ideal state. Of course, waking up is, if nothing, come to the realization that this here now, this is it. How can God, if you use the term, I prefer not to these days, not be here in the middle of, well, this is the only moment we have, the here and now. The past is just a memory in the now, and the future is just an imagination in the now. Unless you're talking about the block universe, when everything that can happen's already happened. But experientially, we can only experience now. And my suspicion is that very experiencing is not one of me, the subject, and the river and everything around me, objects outside of my separate little me seeing. There is only the perceiving of it, which is always fresh, always here, always now. Thank you, Joan, for pointing this out. And there is no other place where you can experience experiencing. And another word for that I would use is the isness. We are all continually present tense in the isness of what is here and now. And perhaps another word for that is ground of being. I'm a bit of a panentheist on these matters. I see God infused in everything. And so, to quote my friend John the Beard, you cannot be closer to God than here and now. And I'm going to take a little breather on the way to my favourite cafe.